going to go ahead and get started a couple of minutes early. I'm going to do my best to compete with the band. We'll see how it goes. So I'm going to go over mostly the June update to the Power BI desktop, which went out earlier today. So if you didn't see this, it's out. You can go and play with it. And I'm going to show one or two things from July as well, but mostly June. We had quite a few features going out in June, as you can see. We wanted to make the release very big, going out at the same time as MBAS. I won't actually, with 20 minutes, have time to demo every single thing here, but I'm going to give it a shot. So first thing, like I do in my videos normally, we're going to start with the reporting features. As soon as I can minimize my PowerPoint. So the first thing you're going to notice is that we updated the look of the Power BI desktop. You'll see that all of our panes are this lighter shade of gray. And it's true for all of our panes. So like if I open up the performance pane as well, that one's also gray. And we've updated the sidebar as well. This is the first stage of basically us redoing the entire UI for the Power BI desktop. We're going on a journey to modernize it and also make it more familiar with what people are already used to for Office. So one of those things is just updating the UI itself, but also if you saw in our earlier session that Amir did, that we're also going to have the new ribbon as well. We're going to eventually integrate the Office ribbon. We're not there yet. The first bit's the pane. But we're also going to, in addition to the new ribbon, we're going to update the new theme as well in the coming months. So this is just stage one of a much grander vision that we have for the product. We also have, this month, some updates for conditional formatting. So if you look back a couple of months ago, we updated our first properties in the formatting pane to support conditional formatting. We had support for being able to create dynamic titles and also for buttons, dynamic URLs. And so your title or your button could be dynamic based off of filter context, send people to different places, show different text. And that was step one of, again, a bigger journey that we're going under. And this time we have step two, which is we've added support for a lot of colors in the product to be conditionally formatted, other than what you already know for table and matrix. So the things we've added this month were, we've added the ability for the background itself of any visual in the product. So I'm going to show it on the multi-row card, but it's true for anything that has a background color. That's going to have a dynamic formatting. You can also do it for the title colors, both the font color and the background color. And you'll actually the reason I'm hovering over them is because the way you'll know if you can dynamically format something in general is there will be this little tiny ... I know, not very obvious, but that's the cue. That way you know that property can be formatted. So both the font color and the background color for any title in the product. We also now support the data label color, so the 33K in this card, and also the category color in the card as well. And then the third one, and I'll show them in action in a second, just listing them now. The third one is also the fill color for the gauge, so the color that's used to fill up the gauge. And so I've already set up conditional formatting rules for all of these visuals, and so you can see as I change the slicer value over here, that all of the cards are updating. So this one I had set if the value was under 4,000 for the background to be red, and the gauge is actually using the gradient colors. So if I open up the gauge fill by clicking on the FX button, you'll see that I'm actually I didn't even set up rules. I just said, use whatever the automatic gradient colors are for the gauge, and as I change the values, they all update. So again, this is not the first step in a greater journey, but it is the next step of many steps. We've already seen just the desktop being out, a few hours. We've already seen other people requesting even more features like this. which is normal, and we like that. We appreciate the feedback, and we do plan on eventually getting to the point where every single thing you see in the formatting pane, every single property will be able to be conditionally formatted in some way. There's a lot of properties in the pane, so it's going to take us a little while to get there, so please have some patience. And if you do have feedback on what you'd like to see next, please let me know, or put them on the blog, comments, or tweet at us. However you feel you want to contact us, let us know, because it does help us prioritize which ones we're going to add next. A few that we know we're going to add soon. One is we're going to make in any visual, we have this property called alt text that you can use for accessibility. We're actually going to make that one conditionally formatted very soon. It's one of our next ones, because that's going to make accessibility so much better, because no longer is the description static. You can actually write up true descriptions that adjust as filters change, and that's going to make the accessibility of your reports go way up. So that's going to be one of our next ones. And that's actually kind of how we're prioritizing them right now. It's kind of like, what do we think is going to make the biggest impact first? So if you think something's going to make a big impact, let us know. Let's see, what else? Oh, another big feature this month is one of the top ideas that came from user voice. It was on the front page, and it's been there for quite a while, and we know a lot of people are angry hadn't done it yet. So we finally got around to doing it. And it's now you can add a visual level filter to the slicer. So you can see here, I have a measure filter set up so that only the brands that have less than 1,000 average sales is going to show up in the slicer. If I cleared that, you'll see there's actually way more values available. So this filter experience is going to work exactly like any other visual level filter. There's no differences whatsoever. So one thing to note that we've already heard some people we've already kind of heard from early testing that can confuse people, is that just like any other visual level filter, if you apply a visual level filter to the slicer, it's not going to carry forward to the other visuals getting filtered by the slicer. Again, just like any other visual level filter. So that is one thing to know. We also added, we have so many features, I can't remember them all. Gonna have to keep flipping back and forth. We also added this month an update to our Perf pane. So we shipped the performance analyzer pane just last month, and we already got some really good feedback from users on it. And one of the immediate requests we've been hearing from users was that they wanted to be able to sort the perf pane so they could actually, focus on the things that matter to them. So now whenever you have, let me just refresh the pane so I can see some visuals here. Now whenever you see that there's this icon indicating the sort direction next to duration, you can click on the icon and you can change the direction of the sort and also change the sort by something else. So by default, the pane's going to sort by action order, so the order in which the visual's loaded or the visual's updated based off what you were doing. Or you could sort by just total time to just see what in the world is taking up the most time. Or if you're focusing in on something specific, like you want to optimize your Dax, and so all you really care about are the visuals that are taking longest in terms of Dax, you can focus in on that, or the visual display. Or if you are connecting through direct query, you can also filter in just on the longest for direct query, which can be very useful if, say, you're trying to optimize your back-end data source. And so that was a request we heard right away, and so we tried to address it as fast as we could with an update the following month. Our next feature on the list is a feature that actually came out of a hackathon project. So we regularly run hackathons on the Power BI desktop team, and so we let the engineers work on whatever they want. Sometimes I try to influence them, but mostly they work on whatever they want. And if the feature is after the hackathon really close to being done, or we think it's really impactful, we'll let them continue working on it and get it shipped. So one feature that came out of that is a new feature that we call visual header tooltips. So the visual header is just this general area where all these icons float around. And we've added a new option, which is this question mark, that lets you customize a tooltip to show. And the goal of this feature is that we want you to allow you to surface up helpful information for the consumers of your reports. We've already seen a lot of people try to build this out themselves using complex bookmarking logic or cluttering their report with a lot of text boxes, because it's really important to give extra information to your consumers. You either want to let them know how to interact with their report, especially if there's a bunch of buttons or navigation elements, or drill is really important, and we all know drill's not the most discoverable. Or we see people also surfacing up information like how a calculation was done, or how does the DAX calculation work, so they know, like, okay, when I see the word sales here, that's what sales actually means. So we're now trying to make this easier for you to integrate with this tooltip. So the way you turn this on is that for any visual whatsoever, you can go into the formatting pane, and in the visual header card, if you scroll way to the bottom of the very long card, you'll see a visual header tooltip icon, and it's going to be off by default, but you can turn it on. And when you do, two things will happen. One, the icon gets added to the visual, and two, a new formatting card appears called Visual Header Tooltip. And when you open this, you get two ways you can choose to display a tooltip. You can either type in whatever text you want. So I had typed in some text to let users know that they could click on these bubbles in the chart, because that might not be obvious to them. And if you go the text route, you can type in whatever text you want and then format it to look however you want for to match the theme of your report. And another option, though, is to choose to show a report page tooltip on hover as well. So if I pick a tooltip that I have already built, and then I hover over the card, the icon, you'll see that tooltip loads. So that's a good option if you need something more advanced than what you can just type in text. So if you need to show images or show some extra information, you could build a report page tooltip to surface that up. Another feature that came out of our community ask is we've added the ability to customize our totals. And Will mentioned this earlier in one of his demos, but in case you missed that, one of our MVPs, Matt, he had posted on Twitter that he really, really wanted to be able to customize the total labels, and he didn't understand why we couldn't do it now. And a lot of people picked up on that and were liking the tweet, retweeting it. And one of the engineers on our team actually saw that, and he decided that, he saw the customer impact, and he was going to go follow up and do that feature on his own. He did it outside of his normal work on his free time. And so now, if I go into the subtotals card, I'll see an option for both row subtotals and column subtotals, and I can type whatever I want into this label. Now, I'm not going to come up with something clever. I'm just going to type random stuff. But you can see the label is customized. A nice addition to this feature is if you aren't using the step layout, you're using the other layout. Let me just turn stepped off. You'll see that when you're not in step layout, we repeat the total label in many places throughout the matrix. And by default, it's going to pick up what I just typed. But I can go in and I can do per row level, specify what I want the label to be for an individual level. So I can have the grand total be something, and then I can have the subtotals be something else. And I can customize that at the individual level. And that's true for the column totals as well, and also for table totals. So you have full customization of these labels now. And then the last reporting feature that I'm going to talk about this month is not really it's kind of a feature, it's an improvement. If you've been using Power BI for quite a while, you might have noticed that if you put into the font size, say 9 or some other number, 9 meant different things in different places. It's really annoying, right? So the reason for this was actually that depending on where you were, we weren't indicating this to you, but sometimes the box meant pixels and sometimes it meant points. And 9 pixels and 9 points are different sizes. So what we've done is for visuals, we've now made everything consistently points. Anywhere in the product, anywhere for visuals in the pane where you see text size, so if I just open up grid, you'll see anywhere that there's text size, it's now points. So anywhere you put in the number, it's going to be the same. And we've also indicated that it's points, so now it's extra clear what it is. So that we did that for visuals, which is nice. And there's still a couple of places in the product that is still pixels. Text boxes in the filter pane or what comes to mind. But we are planning on fixing those as well, so they will eventually be points. And then you can say something like, I want my font size to be 8. And everywhere 8 will mean the same thing. So we're in the process of fixing that and making that better. We also have some updates to our key influencers visual. So if you haven't paid a lot of attention, one of our newest and coolest visuals is the key influencers visual, which lets you be able to specify some fields, such as sales amount, and put a bunch of stuff in the explain by bucket, and we'll tell you what's most interesting in terms of influence to that field you picked. And so I can see what influences my sales amount to increase is when I have a medium sales size. That's the one that's the most influential. And so some of the updates we have this month for this feature is that the first one is that it now works when you're live connected to a Power BI data set. Up until now, whenever you live connected, this visual was not available. Now it is. We also now support Cloud RS for our RLS as well, so that now whenever you're testing out different roles, security roles, you'll actually be able to see in the visual the types of insights they're going to get. And it makes sense that those insights are going to be different, because when you're just in the report as yourself, you have access to all of the data, or at least most of it. And then when a specific role is viewing it and it's filtered down, less data, they're going to have different data, different insights. So now you can actually test it, see how useful it's going to be, what type of insights they're going to get surfaced up. And then the last update around this visual is that it's now also accessible. Power BI has been on quite a long journey to become a very accessible tool for all users. And so it's really important to us when we introduce new features that all of those features are keyboard navigatable, they work well with screen readers, they can show in high contrast mode, things like that. So this preview visual is now also supports all of those things. So I'm just going to show when I control right arrow key, that's the keyboard shortcut to move into the visual. You can see my focus is inside of it. I can navigate to each of the controls. And if I had a screen reader on, you would hear important information about what's in focus. So that's a big improvement for the key influences visual this month. And speaking of accessibility, the other analytics section feature is that we also now support accessibility for our aggregations dialog as well. So if I go in and I open up the incremental refresh dialog, not that one, the aggregations dialog, my bad, the aggregations dialog, and I start tabbing throughout the dialog, you'll see again my focus is moving around. It will read off the important information with the screen reader, high contrast support, all that goodness is there. We also have a new Dax operator this month. It's an equals operator, which is different than a single equals operator in that the 0 and blanks are treated differently. So in the equals, if you compared a blank and a 0, they would be true. Now with the equals, we notice the distinction between them, and you can tell them apart with this operator. The personalized visualization pane is also a big update this month. It's a preview feature, so you have to turn it on, but once you do, you'll see in the visualization pane, you'll notice that all of your custom visuals by default are going to show below this dashed line. So that's any visuals that you import from the marketplace and from a file or whatever. And now now you have the added ability of being able to right-click and actually pin that visual from the marketplace to your visualizations pane. And this pinning is really convenient because that means next time I come up with a new report and I open it, that visual I pinned is already going to be there available to me. So you no longer have to keep going back to the marketplace and import it every single time. Yeah, and this is just, again, talking about journeys a lot. This is, again, the first step in a journey of really improving our integrations with custom visuals and making them feel just like any other visual. So we'll have more updates there as well. So I'm running out of time, so I'm going to talk about one more feature now, and then I'm going to show mention the 2 July features. So the only other feature from June I'm going to show, we have more custom visuals, we have more connectors, we've improved our IntelliSense. But the big one to call out from data connectivity is that we now connect to shared and certified data sets. So you've likely seen either here or through the blog some announcements around that. Shared and certified data sets allow you to be able to basically say that this data set I'm building, it's official, it's done, it's ready, please use it. Don't use this other crap one I'm just playing with, use this one. And so we added that functionality to the Power BI service, and at the same time, we now updated our connector for the Power BI data sets to also, one, be just nicer looking, but also indicate to you which data sets are certified. And of course, I don't have any, but if I did, they would show up here. There would be a little tag right here that said promoted or certified or whatever. And we've also made the dialog better in that you can search for your data sets. You see the name, you'll see the owner, you'll see the workplace it came from, and you'll also be able to see when the last time it was refreshed was. So you can know if, like, these have been refreshed in 3 years, probably not something you're going to want to connect to, not relevant. So you can see all this information here. So the 2 features I was going to real quickly demo for our future-looking July release. The first one is, Will kind of stole my thunder about this, but just in case you didn't see it earlier, we are adding to conditional formatting a new option called icons. And so this is just like the icon sets that you already hopefully know and love from Excel. You get a whole dialog where you can customize any of the icons you want and set up any custom rules you want to go along with those icons to show. And you can have some formatting controls. I can say, how do I want the icon to align in the cell? I can even say I only want to see the icon and I don't want to see the numbers. And you can also import through the theme new icons, which Will showed as well, where you can actually import GIFs and have little exploding cells in the matrix or the table that you are conditionally formatting. And this is just like any of our other conditional formatting controls, so I can use this in combination with the background color conditional formatting or data bars if I wanted to. It works just like the rest of them. And then with my no extra time that I have, the other thing I just wanted to mention was we have another pretty big update for our key influencers visual coming out in July, which is that it's going to now support measures as well. That was a gap that a lot of people noticed when playing with the key influencers visual, is that it only supported categories or numeric columns, not measures, which is a pretty important thing. So now you'll be able to drag in measures as well into here and get insights off of those as well. So that's going to be another future July update for the key influencers visual. So that's about it, because I'm out of time. Thank you.